The creatures outside looked from man to pig, from pig to man, and from man to pig again, but already it was impossible to say what was the main roster and what was not. The end. Oh, hello there. I did not hear or see you come in. Anyway, that was a really good joke. Get on my level. My name is Adam Cleary and welcome back to another exciting episode of NXT Ups and Downs, brought to you by me, a man who wears too much yellow. Now, those incredibly good pastiches to one side, this is another genuinely fantastic episode of the show that both you and I love, and in my opinion, still the best way a pro wrestling fan can spend their Wednesday nights, and then subsequently, the best way a pro wrestling fan can spend their Thursday afternoons. Watching this one. But we enter the show in quite a weird place, I think, because so much of recent weeks has been built towards announcing WarGames, and yet they have not, for whatever reason, decided to formally announce WarGames. So we go into this week's episode hoping that they would do that, and there look to be several matches on the card that could provide a jumping off point, I guess. Anyway, also Finn Balor was coming back, and you remember him, he's the NXT champion. Anyway, I could go round and round the houses with this, but I've not got all day, and I presume you don't either, so welcome back to the basement of replacement. My name is Adam Cleary, and these are all the ups and downs from this week's episode of NXT. Alright, so we open up with a rematch for some reason between Leon Ruff and Johnny Gargano, and NXT pretty much giving itself just a really no-win scenario. Like last week was so perfectly pitched, the clean-ish nature of Leon Ruff's win made it such an excellent storyline. There didn't seem to be an option available to them that actually worked. Like, you have Gargano just roll through it, proves it was a fluke, and last week kind of doesn't really count. But then if you have Priest get involved and Ruff wins again, then he's already becoming like the third man in his own North American Championship feud. So I didn't see how this was going to work. Don't get me wrong, my hopes were still high that they were going to find some magical third option that I couldn't think of, but after a genuinely exhilarating opening part of that contest, like Ruff looks legit at this level, he looks like something NXT don't currently have, they went with the least interesting option. Let's get one thing clear here. Leon Ruff last week did not win this championship because of Damian Priest. Yes, he was there, but he won it because Gargano didn't take him seriously, didn't take the match seriously, and he was good enough to capitalize on that. That's why it's a clean-ish win. But what they did here was just have Priest directly cost Gargano by sparking out Ruff. And it's just like, alright, okay, so this is just a Gargano Priest storyline. And Leon Ruff, the most interesting man in it, is a bystander? Really? Now, I thought this was terrible and I was going to give it a down, but NXT, to their credit, did manage to pull this out the fire because all of the concerns I had were acknowledged in that backstage promo. Like, Priest was like, oh, you know, I'm just fooling around, and that really deep voice he's got, and Ruff was like, hang on, sorry, am I a joke in all of this? And I was like, yes, Leon, you tell him you're not a joke in all of this. So I kind of get what they're doing with it. They've steered into the negatives of it because, well, as we disclosed at the start, there was no perfect solution, so, okay, up. And if I was kind of on the fence with this, the fact that Ruff bested them both physically later in the night, that kind of cements it all. I'm into seeing a triple threat match so long as it is a triple threat match and not just Gargano versus Priest with Ruff there for some reason. Yeah, alright, I liked it. Well, that was quite a long-winded explanation for what was ultimately quite a good thing. So here is a very short description of something that was terrible. Like, for real, this Loomis Grimes thing might honestly have been the worst segment NXT have done this year? Is that too harsh? It's certainly in the conversation. Like, normally, Grimes can make any kind of hokey shtick be entertaining, and Loomis is an interesting character, even if people are sort of bored of his gimmick by now. But this, no, bad, terrible, hated it. Like, Cameron Grimes can turn any hokey shtick into something that is genuinely entertaining, and Dexter Loomis is an interesting character with a unique gimmick, even if people are starting to get bored by it. But just no, I hated every single part of this, from the two of them staggering around with their blindfolds, to the beating up the referee, to them just taking the thing off and it being a total non-finish. None of this did anything other than make all the men involved, including the referee, look like flippin' idiots. Like the opening spot, Grimes does the dive and missed, was funny, but that was the joke, and they kept just trying to do the joke again for a couple of minutes before just going on the outside and Grimes running away. Like, what was achieved here that couldn't have been done by just having him walk into a door backstage, or Loomis still being able just go backstage, put the blindfold on Loomis, have Grimes wave his hand in front of his face because he can't see, but then Loomis still knows where he is. It would have taken 30 seconds and done the exact same thing. Hated it. Down. Like, for real, if you're a performer on NXT and you see this getting ring time and not you, I'd be cross. Alright, next up, something interesting. That's a treat. Now, all things considered, putting three of the brand's up-and-coming talent into a match with a woman who is currently enjoying a real purple patch in NXT should have made for a short but energetic, frenetic, kind of messy but nonetheless quite showcasey platform to see what was coming in the division's future. And I cannot appraise it in such glowing terms. It was not as good as I thought it was going to be, but nonetheless, quite good. Yes. Now quickly, first of all, the downside to this was Indy Hartwell, in my opinion. Like, if you find yourself thrust into a spotlight you have not previously been getting, you have very few opportunities to have a breakout performance to show that you justify this, and this was definitely one of those, and yet it still felt way more about Candice's story. Like, take, for example, Raquel Gonzalez. It took her ages to find her footing, and she ended up coasting off the powerful introduction she had at TakeOver because she never quite got that breakout match in those opening few weeks. Only now do you kind of receive her as like a really big badass when it should have been happening back then. This was Indy Hartwell's chance to do that, you know, dominate these two people who were below her in terms of stature and strength and power, whilst also looking like you're on Candice's level. Nah, didn't happen. This was Candice's match, so that was a letdown. But the fluidity of the contest, the way it pushed the story forward, the few flurries of offense we got from both Katie Catanzaro, who I really like, and Kaden Carter, who I also really like, made this an entertaining way to while away a couple of minutes in the NXT Women's Division. So I'm going to give it an up, but I thought it was going to be much better than it was. Like, at the end of the day, it did what it was supposed to do. The heels here will end up at WarGames, the faces will not. I don't know. Alright, so this next one's a bit interesting, and just cards on the... I haven't got any cards, but cards on the table. I am going to give this a down, but I am aware that it is quite a harsh down. But just life is harsh, isn't it? So suck it up. So we got this short video package introducing us to Arturo Ruas. Like, here he is, he's different, he's the kickbox, he's gonna punch you and do the thing, he's a legit guy, you should be receiving him like he's a big deal. And oh, look, here is a match, we're gonna put him with Kushida, who is a big deal. And straight away I was like, oh, dunno. It's a strange pairing, and yes, admittedly, strange pairings do often lead to interesting matches, but just... I was a bit worried about this one for the same reasons I was worried about the match at the start of the night. There didn't appear to be a good solution for how this could go. I was praying for a magical third option. Like, if you have the newcomer roll over Kushida, what was the point in giving him all those big wins in the summer and the autumn to try and build him to something? But if you don't give him the win, just dunk loads of cold water on him right after his debut. So, like, whatever happened here was going to lead to a return contest, such as WWE's outright dedication to booking everything 50-50, so I guess that having Kushida just get ahead of him by using his extra experience, which in WWE terms just means they have been on the show for longer, kind of makes sense. I'd like to see them go at this again. Like, either way, just kind of a boring result, this, isn't it? Like, you can't really justify a rematch with Kushida because he lost clean, and then if he just goes back into the mid-card and beats some other goober, then immediately like, aha, I know where this man is. He's not with the good lads, but he's better than the bad lads. He is average. And you know what? If this had been a ripper of a match, I probably would have given it a pass because, like, then it would have at least been incredibly entertaining. But just the whole going for the shoot hold and the amateur wrestling and, ooh, look at us, we're a bit different to what you normally see style didn't really click in the way I think both men were hoping it would. So just a down. Look, it's 4.9 out of 10, this. Down. Alright, so you know how Ember Moon's not quite been at her imperious best since she returned to NXT, and you know how Toni Storm's actually been pretty dreadful in parts but is slowly starting to find her feet, and you know how Raquel Gonzalez is pretty two-dimensional in her this woman bigger than other women gimmick on NXT, and you know how Dakota Kai is amazing but tends to struggle when she has to carry other wrestlers. You know all that? Yep, good. Well, I wasn't expecting too much from this match, so I'm happy to say it massively over-delivered. But before we even get into the fact that three of the women in this match probably had their best ever matches in NXT in certain cases of this particular run. Anyway, you kind of get what I'm talking about. This had a brilliant storyline woven into the middle of it, the kind that just no WWE brand ever really does particularly well. Like, the story here was that Storm and Moon were individually far too much for Kai and Gonzalez, but the heels turned up to win a tag team match, and the faces didn't. Toni Storm was there to mark herself out as the next natural #1 contender, which when she kept going into business for herself and Moon had to rein her in and make saves here and there, and they had too much for the heels, but they were genuinely a team and they were working as a team, so they got the win as a team at the end of it. I was fascinated, compelled by all of this. I don't know what the exact combinations are going to be for WarGames, but this match encourages you to think that it could be something of an all-timer. This is just between me and you, right? But like, WWE waste money so much. So I'm willing to believe they bought that tank for Rusev at WrestleMania. They didn't loan it, they bought it. And it's just kicking about in Stamford somewhere. I personally would give that to Shotzi Blackheart, the actual tank. That's how I would do WarGames, but I don't know what the point is. The match was an up. Did I say the match was an up? I can't remember if I said the match was an up, but it was an up. All right. I have nobody to blame but myself here. I have to give Timothy Thatcher versus Austin Gray an up, even though I don't want to. I've made this bed, haven't I? So I've got to lie in it. I kept saying that Timothy Thatcher beating up his students for some reason was only going to be an interesting thing to do on this show if it was going to lead to a substantial feeling feud with pro wrestling matches that helped develop it. And here we are. It's a substantial feeling feud because it's gone on for a couple of weeks and we got pro wrestling matches to help develop it. Like, I wouldn't personally have picked Austin Gray for this, but I did specifically ask for this, so I'm going to have to praise it because I've got what I want. I mean, it was fine if a bit underwhelming, and it was a showcase of things we've already seen, and it did give a platform to Austin Gray, even though it didn't really let him do anything with it. Like, under normal circumstances, I would just chuck this a modest down and move on with my life, but I specifically asked for this, so thanks NXT, I hate it. And I'm not sure who that was who came out at the end to confront Thatcher. Like, he didn't say his name or what he wanted or anything like that, so I'm a little bit confused by all this, but he did at least then go backstage and cut a promo that was wonderfully reminiscent of all those generic, text-only, loads of head moving, between saying one sentence thing just to get on SmackDown, just bring it for the PS2. So bonus points for nostalgia. Whoever you are. Hey there, is that Zia Lee? Zia, yeah, it's Brad from production. You changed your number. I had to ask around to get it. Yeah, just want to let you know on the latest installment for the whole you thing, the you storyline, the storyline that's all about you. Yeah, we decided we're gonna get Mr. Regal involved. Yeah, really give it a bit of gravitas, you know what I'm saying? So what we're gonna do, you've been missing for 2 weeks. Everybody's asking, where's Zia Lee? Where's Zia Lee? What's going on with Zia Lee? What's the deal with Zia Lee? We need to give people those answers. We need to let people know what's going on with Zia Lee. Yeah. Oh, you agree? Yeah, I thought you might. So what we're gonna do, Regal, he's gonna go knocking on the old door, he wants to know what's going on with Zia Lee, and we're gonna tell him, okay? So Boa comes to the door. Yeah, you're not there at all. No. So Boa comes to the door and he says, Zia Lee, she's not here. No. Yeah, not there again. Yeah, so yeah. Well, that's it. You're not there. And he just says, no, sorry, sir. No Zia Lee. And that's this. Hello? Oh, she's gone again. She's gone. Yet again, if you couldn't read between the lines there, that was a down. What are they doing? Anyway, alright, okay, I will hold my hands up here. The term possible match of the year candidate gets thrown around way too much, usually by me on this show, but well, you know what's coming next. Alright, so the last 12 months between Rhea Ripley and Io Shirai have been one of the most compelling narratives, accidentally, that I think NXT has ever stumbled across. Like, cast your mind back 12 months, Rhea Ripley was on the verge of the most dominant week in NXT women's history. She was about to, she'd just been Charlotte on SmackDown. She was about to beat Shayna Baszler in a cage, and she was going to go dominate the Survivor Series match for NXT, basically dicking on the entire main roster in the process. All of this to build towards her getting that championship and defending it at WrestleMania. They have never been as hot on anyone as they were on her then. Meanwhile, what was Io Shirai doing? Just putting in loads of good performances, yes, but pretty much just having news stories written about her that she was looking to leave the company, which felt like a huge shame, but oh well. 12 months later, and where are we? Well, Io Shirai can probably make the argument that she is the best women's champion in this division of all time, such as the power and the quality of the matches she is putting on with a variety of opponents, and Rhea Ripley's fallen back down into the mid-card, and her most notable feud has been against Aaliyah and Robert Stone. Nobody wrote this, and both these would have been so integral to the women's championship on this brand, and yet never really directly crossed paths. Like, yes, I know Io pinned her to take the belt off Charlotte, but that was never their feud. They were just both going after the belt. This is the first time where it ever felt like finally this was going to happen. This was a takeover-worthy feud that deserved a takeover-style spectacle. Like, can you imagine the 4-minute-long video package leading into this? But you know what? If it has to close out a Wednesday night episode of TV, then so be it. As far as I'm concerned, it was sensational. Everything about this, like, just rocked me and sold me and made me feel things, and just, I love this. There's a niche part of wrestling where something becomes grueling to watch without ever being a slog, in my opinion. Like, you are just worn down. You are exhausted by watching it without ever being tired of any of it. Like, you do not appreciate how long it is going on for, because your adrenaline is up and your emotions are riding, so it all just flies by. Like that counter, the riptide into the DDT at the end, that elicited a off-my-seat moment normally reserved for real sports. I can't keep saying I love this, but I love this. The busted open ear, the constant counters, Io's cat-like ability to always somehow land on her feet, that powerbomb spot at the end. If you're watching this video without having seen this match, if you listen to anything I have ever told you in over a year of presenting this show, tonight, go home, or if you're already in home, it doesn't matter, just put it on, light a candle, put 20 minutes aside and enjoy this pro wrestling match. It gets an up, it gets the yellow jacket. If I had a higher level of praise, I would bestow that upon it. It is, I think, my favourite TV match of any wrestling promotion in the world this year. The women's division in NXT is the best pro wrestling on the planet, period. Not the planet, period. That'd be really weird, but the planet full, you get it. And yet somehow, that wasn't the main event. What was the main event? It didn't close the show, but it was definitely the main event. The main event was the Prince Finn Balor returning. And I'll tell you this, I could have done without hearing about how this was going to happen 3 or 4 times during the match, but it is what it is. First things first, yeah, Balor's return is absolutely vital for NXT because the show hasn't had a proper, full-time, substantial champion since Keith Lee. And that was a long old time ago. Cross got injured, Balor got injured. We have not felt the presence of the top belt for forever now, so having him back was very important. And if you want to be super critical about this, it was technically quite badly done because we wanted to hear from Finn Balor. We were told we were going to hear from Finn Balor, but all we heard from Finn Balor was, I've got plates in my jaw now. I'll never do that accent again, as long as I live. And then it just became a mass brawl for Undisputed Era versus Pat McAfee and the boys. So, kind of badly done this, but I'm going to give it an up. Because, I mean, Christ, any segment where Pat gets on the mic is great. We've needed to announce WarGames for ages, so that's great. And just, I'm very critical of mass brawls on this show. I think they're way overused, but this is where you're supposed to use them. A huge fight that takes over everything and is good, and you need to contain it, and you need to have Regal coming down saying, WarGames, and blowing out the mic. So just, yeah, okay, technically speaking, this was a bad segment for Finn Balor's return, but it was a good segment anyway. It's just kind of mad, isn't it, that all of this match, Pat in the thing, and the new stable, and Undisputed Era returning face, all because Adam Cole lost his nut on a podcast. Mad one. And you know what, that's nearly us done, but it gives me great pleasure to introduce, for one last time, my favourite ever segment of this show. Bug Watch. Yep, there you go. There you go. There you go. We've got some bugs. That's all I wanted. We've got some bugs. Jazzy, groovy up. Thank you very much. That's all I've ever asked for. I love it. Ooh, there you have it, all the ups and downs from this week's episode of which is a way I've always wanted to say it, and I'm indulging myself. Ha ha ha. Let me know what you made of it all in the comments below. Of course, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Welcome back for the basement of replacement. I just live here now forever. But in the meantime, thank you genuinely so much for watching. I've loved this. Goodbye.